Okay, my friends, here it is, part 3 in our mushroom growing adventure. So in part 1, you got an overview of the entire process and you familiarized yourself with the terms that we'll be using while growing mushrooms indoors. In part 2, you saw 3 different options for fruiting chambers. And so therefore you have been able to determine which one is most ideal for your needs and for your area. And so you have either that set up or you know which one you're going to be utilizing. So then in this third part, we're going to sterilize the substrate and then inoculate the substrate with the mycelium. So I'm going to say a few words about it first here, and then I'll take you in the basement and show you everything you need to know step by step. So it's very easy, my friends. You just follow the guide step by step and you will have success. So in this technique, we're going to be utilizing the food grade buckets. So if you're doing the tub with the perlite, the growing chamber that way, then you will utilize the 2.5 gallon buckets so they can fit into the tub. And if you're using the other methods, you can utilize the 5 gallon buckets. And it doesn't matter which one you use, the process is going to be the same. And so we just want to make sure that they are food grade. And so we got our buckets, and then the next thing is going to be the substrate. And for this substrate, we're just using a bale of clean straw. Okay, it cannot be hay. It has to be just straw. And this I got from my aunt and uncle who are farmers, and they don't spray it with anything. So ask the farmer if it's sprayed with anything. Generally, it shouldn't be, but we're going to utilize the straw. And now, yes, you could get a bag of the chopped straw from one of the stores or something. If you check and the only ingredient is straw. If it's just pure straw, it'll work. So and then we have to have the spawn, all right? And so for we got our bag of spawn. And so for the small buckets, we're gonna be using 1/4 of the bag. For the small buckets, we're gonna be using 1/2 of the bag for each of the 5 gallon buckets. Now you could get away with a bit less, but to begin with, it's best if we do a nice heavy inoculation. That will give us the best success, okay? So using those guidelines, let us go downstairs and get on with it. All right, step 1 is to get the largest pot we can find. The larger, the better. For a lot of you, that will mean utilizing the pressure cooking pot that you have. So fill it halfway with water and turn it on the stove on medium-high heat. And during the meantime, we're going to take the straw and we're going to put it into a container such as this, because you see how it's really coarse and long, and that is not going to give us what we need. So we have to chop it down finer. So to do that, we're simply going to utilize a weed whacker or string trimmer, whatever you want to call it, and we're just going to take small bites of it like this. And then we're going to rake some of it back in and take a few more small bites. And we're not trying to pulverize it to a powder. That's very important. We're just trying to chop it so that you can see here that it's much finer than it was before, but it's not powdered. So we don't want to run it too much until the whole thing, you can't see any structure. You see here it was before, how it's all really long and fibrous and coarse, and then here now is the ideal texture. So that we call this nice chopped straw. Next step is that we take a nice clean pillowcase and we're going to stuff it full of the straw, as much as the size pot that we have boiling is going to allow us. So then we compact it down like this and add more if we need to, so we can get as much as possible into the bag. And then we twist the top closed and tie with some string or something so it will not come undone. That's very important. I use a clove hitch for this. And so then we're going to take the bag of straw and place it into the almost simmering but not quite water. And we're going to do this real slow-like, because if we do it fast, some of the water will spurt out and burn us. So we do it nice and slow, and then we're going to put weight on top. Here I have a brick or two, and I put it on top. And then I'm going to pour additional hot water until everything is submerged. Everything has to be submerged, so that's why I put these 2 weights on top. And then you will bring it up until the temperature is between 160 and 180 Fahrenheit. And you will leave it there for 1 hour once it gets up to temperature. So do whatever you got to do, play with the temperature a bit until it maintains 160 to 180 or a little bit above for 1 hour. After it's been at that temperature for 1 hour, we're going to shut it off and let it cool for 4 to 5 hours. And after that, then we're going to put a nail from the rafter like this, and then we're going to suspend the 2 pillowcases over a basin overnight so that all the water can drain out by itself. And this is very important. So 12 hours later, we will come back. Then we're going to come back 12 hours later dressed in our mushroom suit, so we know everything is nice and clean. And then we're going to take our buckets and we're going to utilize a 1/2 inch drill bit, and we're going to drill the holes. So the 5-gallon buckets are going to use this kind of star pattern. It's going to be 2 to 1, 2 to 1, spaced 5 to 8 inches apart. It's not an exact science, but you want it to look something like this on the 5-gallon buckets. Now, if you're utilizing the smaller buckets, then we just put 1 single row in the middle of the bucket, spaced between 5 and 7 inches apart, something like that. And then we're going to wipe all the plastic particles off the bucket because we don't want them to get into stuff. And then we're going to sweep everything really good, sweep it all up. And then we're going to make a solution from a 1/4 cup of bleach into 1 liter of water. And then we're going to use that bleach solution to spray down everything inside of the bucket, outside of the bucket, table, all of that stuff. Spray it all with the bleach and then let it dry. Once everything is dry, then we are going to inoculate the buckets. So for this example, we're going to utilize the small 2.5 gallon buckets. And so for that, we're going to utilize a 1/4 of the bag of spawn. So we're going to begin layering the straw with the spawn. So we're going to put down about 2 inches of the straw first, and then we're going to give it a little kind of a pack down. And then we're going to take some of the spawn and we're going to break that up and place that evenly all over the surface of the straw, just like this. And then we're going to put another layer of the straw, and we're going to, and that's about 2 inches thick again. And we're going to give it a tamping down. We're not pressing with all of our weight or anything, but we're going to, make sure that there's not a lot of air pockets in there. And then we're going to break up more of the spawn. Now you see this spawn is nice and heavily colonized. This is ready to go, this mycelium. So we're going to break it up and place it evenly all over the surface of the straw. And like this, we are going to make sure that we utilize, in total, a 1/4 of the bag of spawn for the small buckets and a 1/2 of the bag of spawn for the large buckets. And you see that we will just continue this method, until we have layered it all the way until it is almost to the top. And then we want to make sure that the final layer on top is straw. And so you see here, we pack it down, we wipe the rim of the lid, and then we're going to put the lid on, and we're going to secure that tightly. If you use the big 5-gallon buckets, you'll probably have to use a mallet like this one. But we want to make sure that the lid is on nice and tight, and then we are going to, of course, label it. We want to say the strain and the date of inoculation. Blue oysters inoculated 11/12. Then we're going to put masking tape over each one of the holes, so that will keep everything that's inside and all the stuff that's outside out. And we're going to place it in a somewhat warm location. About 70 is ideal, give or take 5 degrees each direction. So we're going to let that incubate, and the mycelium is going to colonize that entire bucket over the course of the coming weeks. Okay, so depending on the temperature, it will greatly influence the speed at which the substrate is colonized. So if it's 50 degrees, it will still colonize. It will just take much longer than if it was 70 degrees. It will happen much faster. So for that reason, just leave it in the warmest place of your house where it will not be disturbed, and we'll split the difference in time, and we'll say 2 weeks. So the next video will be coming in about 10 days to 2 weeks, the next mushroom video. And that is just going to be how to fruit these buckets, which is essentially just removing the tape and placing them into the fruiting chamber, but we want to make sure that a number of elements are exactly correct first. So look out for that video. And guys, if you have watched these mushroom videos and you don't have the spawn yet, there's still plenty of time left in the winter to participate with us. So utilize the link in the description to get the spawn. You can use the promo code Garden Viking and you get 10% off and I get a small kickback. It's a win-win. And we will be growing by Christmas time, guys. We will have a bucket full of delicious mushrooms. Okay, so if you feel like you gained something from the video, give it a thumbs up. Also, leave a comment. Whatever comes to mind, just put it in the comments, and I will see you next time.